So January 1933, Hitler finally became Chancellor of Germany. How did that actually happen? Well, there's a number of key factors at play. First of all, Hitler was Chancellor because he had a lot of support from the Reichstag, but that wasn't enough. In order to become Chancellor, President Hindenburg would have to appoint him, and a number of key manoeuvres happened in the Weimar Republic to ensure that happened. First of all, due to the constitution of the Weimar Republic, the way the Republic was set up, it led to a series of weak and inefficient coalition governments. The system of proportional representation, the number of votes equal to the number of seats, meant there were a large number of parties in the Reichstag. This made it very difficult for chancellors to have the support they needed, 50%, in order to pass laws. Brüning, pictured here, is a perfect example of that. He reduced unemployment benefit and increased taxes to deal with the economic crisis, but didn't have the majority in the Reichstag to be able to do so. So he was completely dependent on Article 48, the emergency powers that Hindenburg had, in order to pass laws. He was an ineffective chancellor and therefore was removed. He was replaced by von Papen. Now, von Papen was a friend of Hindenburg, and he was appointed Chancellor. He was leader of the Centre Party, but he only had 68 supporters in the Reichstag. He needed 50% in order to pass laws. So just like Brüning, he had a limited amount of support, so was unable to pass laws. He was dependent, like Brüning, on Article 48. Von Papen held elections in July 1932. He used these elections to try and gain more support from the Reichstag. If the Centre Party could win more seats, it would be easier for him to pass laws. This proved to be disastrous. The elections were a great success for the Nazi Party, who won 230 seats. They were now the largest party in the Reichstag. Hitler demanded the post of Chancellor. He had the most seats in the Reichstag. He would be able to pass laws. Hindenburg, though, greatly disliked him, believing that the Nazis were too violent to be given power. So instead, he asked von Papen to remain in office. The new Reichstag, following the elections, had no confidence in von Papen. Only 32 members of the Reichstag supported him. Again, despite these elections he'd called, he was completely dependent on Article 48 to be able to pass laws. General von Schleicher had warned Hindenburg that a von Papen government could lead to a civil war and even more violence from the Nazis and the Communists. Hindenburg therefore removed von Papen from his post as Chancellor and made von Schleicher Chancellor. Von Schleicher had similar problems, and he lasted no more than 2 months. However, von Papen was furious with the actions of von Schleicher, and behind the scenes began to negotiate with Hitler. He knew Hitler had the support of the Reichstag. Von Papen felt he could use him. He made a deal. Hitler would become Chancellor. Von Papen would be his Vice-Chancellor if he could persuade Hindenburg to appoint Hitler as Chancellor. Von Papen's plan was to use Hitler and his popularity in the hope that eventually he may be able to regain power in the Reichstag. So, von Papen persuaded Hindenburg to appoint Hitler as Chancellor. He warned him the alternative would be a civil war. The Nazis had the most support in the Reichstag. He argued it made sense for Hitler to become Chancellor, and he reassured him that he would be able to keep Hitler under control. Both Hindenburg and von Papen were convinced they would be able to use Hitler initially and get rid of him later. They tried to limit the power that Hitler would have as Chancellor by only giving him 3 Nazis in the cabinet. Now, the cabinet are the government ministers who'd be able to help run the country. However, they gave him a key government, a key post in the cabinet. They'd given the Nazis control over the police. Von Papen and Hindenburg had greatly misunderestimated Hitler.